Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Before we dive into today's first look, I do want to mention if you enjoy the Gaming Gang and would like to support the outlet, you can do so in a few ways. First, by utilizing our affiliate links to the One Bookshelf sites, such as DriveThruRPG, and to do so, simply visit thegaminggang.com, click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. You can also make a one-time donation by way of PayPal or become a monthly member of our Patreon. You'll find links in the show notes. Also, down in those show notes, you'll find an invite link to our Discord server. It's absolutely free to sign up, so be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. Today, I am going to unbox and take a first look at the Cross Bronx Expressway, designed by Non-Breaking Space. This is published by GMT Games. The game is for 1 to 3 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around 90 to 180 minutes. It is available now, carries an MSRP of $86. Having said all that, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got the Cross Bronx Expressway. Before we jump on in, do want to mention my friends over at GMT Games were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this first look with you. It's very important you know that. Let's get the shrink wrap off here. Gotta say, this box has some heft to it. You can see relatively deep as well. During his 1980 presidential campaign, California Governor Ronald Reagan took a tour of the South Bronx. As he walked the same streets that President Jimmy Carter had walked 3 years prior, what Reagan witnessed was a scene so devastating it caused him to remark that he had not seen anything that looked like this since London after the Blitz. Cross Bronx Expressway is a game about the social and economic processes that created this scene in the South Bronx and the impacts they had on the local population during the second half of the 20th century. In Cross Bronx Expressway, players control one of 3 asymmetric factions working in the South Bronx between 1940 and 2000. Pursuing their own goals while cooperating to keep the borough viable. Through a card-driven sequence of play, they will work to solve the economic challenges facing the area by building infrastructure and organizations, forming coalitions, mitigating the multitude of issues facing the vulnerable population, and managing resources to stay out of debt. Players will experience the conflicting incentives and complex factors shaping urban life and together determine the fates of the Bronx. I gotta say, GMT Games produces some of the absolute best conflict simulations out there, and then they'll release stuff that's just really, really unique. I mean, think about it. This is a game about developing the South Bronx from the 1970s through 2000. So we have private orientation guide, community orientation guide, and public orientation guide. I'm going to take a guess. Those are actually our asymmetric different factions here. So it looks as if this is a book for the player can read because we get an introduction to the public sector. The role you're taking on is the most essential. I bet they all say that. Just take it a stab. Many have ideas about what it takes to run a city, but few understand what it means to provide for millions of people. Lots of hard work and self-sacrifice from thousands of New Yorkers is needed to keep the city moving every day. So it's going to tell us how to get started. We have blue for public, orange for community, yellow for private. Our setup, infrastructure and population. Each district has 2 or 3 large square spaces, same size as the infrastructure tiles in your play area, When placed in district spaces, your infrastructure tiles represent a public investment in maintaining the infrastructure of the district. Actions in a round. So we have placing the 1950 consensus card face down, placing event card 2. The U.S. enters the war face down on top of that. So that's kind of cool. So we're going to seed the first few cards. Nice. Of course, we do have a rules and regulations book. Probably going to give us all the actual blow by blow rules for the game, mitigating vulnerabilities, choices and consequences, the census round. This is almost giving us a bit of a walkthrough, preparing for the 1950s. You know what? I think this is sort of introducing the first few turns or rounds of the game. So we have public positions: builder, provider, shepherd, workhorse, committed, responsible, paternal, and comptroller. We'll real quickly flip through. Looks like it's the same thing. Let's see. Is it the most? No, I thought for sure it's going to say, oh, this is the most essential. That would be kind of funny. Telling each of the players, hey, you know what? You're the most essential in this. Yep. So it's just kind of walking us through. So this is the community faction. So they are kind of laid out the same way, but from that particular faction's point of view. So we've got leader, activist, dedicated, organizer, independent, and accountable. Those are the stances, positions, I should say, collaborator and determined as well. And then we have the private sector. What are their positions? We have networked, buyer, loss leader, employer, investor, broker, lender, and volunteer. Grab the rules and regulations. Looks like we also have, oh, wow. This might be our playbook. It's a historical record. It's kind of cool. All right, rules and regulations. So it looks like about 40 pages. Cross Bronx Expressway draws its name from the infamous roadway that today splits the Bronx into its northern and southern sections. Construction began in 1948. When it was completed in 1972, the Cross Bronx featured the most expensive mile of roadway ever built. Our overview. 3 players take control of competing interest groups in the South Bronx called factions: public, community, and private. Over the course of several decades, they must work together to mitigate the issues of the vulnerable population and avoid bankruptcy, while independently pursuing their own visions for the South Bronx. Each in-game decade consists of a series of 8 event rounds where all 3 players will have an opportunity to either act in up to 3 spaces, take control of that round's event effect, or react in 1 space. Alternatively, a player can forego acting in this round and plan for the next event round. All right. And then there, at the end of each decade, is a census round where the state of the South Bronx is evaluated. All right. This looks really unique. I dig games like this. So talking about our components, I'm going to skip some pages here. Got different cylinders. We have a fundraiser die, different markers. Our cards, we've got event cards. I wonder if we've got an event card, which is, what was it? Ford to NYC, drop dead, or the headline of the newspaper was Ford to New York City, drop dead. I remember that as a kid. I was in grade school, And I still remember the big deal about that. All right. So I was probably maybe in second or third grade. Different factions and actions. So public, their objectives: balanced budget, social work, public relations, quality of life, and the various different actions they can take: house, service, relocate, budget. Community objectives: rehabilitation, social movement, people power, and grassroots. Their actions are build, organize, mobilize, fundraise. And then private is recurring revenue, trickle down, workforce, and laissez faire. So their actions are develop, invest, pay off, and suburbanize. So we have winning and losing. I would take a guess this is sort of game that everybody can lose. We also have non-player positions. That'd be if you're playing with fewer than 3 players, would be my guess. We get a non-player example of play. And setting up a session. It's like we have 6 decades of the South Bronx. We even have, looks like a short game where it's 1 decade, the 1990s. We got our glossary here. Here's our historical record, which actually has the highest page count of any of these that we've taken a peek at. Yes, I love it. It's going to give us all the history behind this. It's pretty wild. It's kind of giving us a situation for each year. Maybe these are our event cards too. All right. Well, we're going to see. We're going to get to the 1970s. We're going to see if it's Hotels New York City drop dead. All right. Dirty Cops. Maybe not. There we go. President won't bail out the city. That's it. That is it. Sweet. Let me get some different quotes. I love playbooks from GMT Games. They are awesome. And this looks like this is just going to be fantastic. Because it looks like every single card, which normally anything that's card driven will see this. Get a historical background. What does that card represent? You learn so much. Very nice. Okay. Here are the player aids. So, what every public servant should know, what every urban investor should know, and what every Bronx resident should know. Yep. So, these are player aid cards for each of the factions, breaking down each of the phases. I would take a guess the complexity level of this is probably around a 6 on the 1 to 9 scale from GMT. I mention it all the time. I think their scale skews a little low. Maybe that's just me. So we get the non-player aid. And then we are going to start getting into our punch boards of various different counters. So here we've got some markers here. Got the, I think these are supposed to be like developments. Nice thick cardstock on this. Then we have got our game board. We'll have our decks. We've got various different cubes. Got different cylinders. And of course, got baggies for all of the various different counters. We've got a couple of decks of cards. These are our events. Cool insert, as we come to expect from GMT Games releases. We don't really need to delve too deeply into cubes and pawns and stuff like that. Once again, we've got, these are color coded for the different factions. So you get the yellow, orange, and blue. All right, so this looks like this is a pretty good sized board here. Oh, yeah. It is 4 panels by 2. So kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at here. Without messing around too much, zooming in and out. So we got our sequence of play. That's where our census card goes, I guess. Ooh, we got corrections. We got Rikers Island. This is the private sector player, the community player. Looks like we got probably a victory point track that's running along. Although we've got, maybe that's money because we have negatives too running along there. It's got our public. Our population, our vulnerabilities. Here's our infrastructure. These are the different districts. And we have these various different squares, which is where we would place these. And of course, nice, solid cardstock on this board. Very, very cool. All right. Lastly, wait a second. I thought, looked like there might be a drawback in there, but there was not. Let's take a look at some of these cards. And I would think we would seed the decks by decade. And we already saw when we first start off, we're going to take certain cards and put them in a certain order. So here's census cards for each of the decades. These are, I think these are the various different like roles. I think you choose to have a role, right? So like activist, leader, dedicated, organizer. These are also broken up by the factions. So that's cool. So got those. In fact, you know what? I'm going to zoom in. We'll get a closer look at these cards. So we have like the builder, provider, and then here it'll show quality of life, public relations. So I think you have to take like a stance as far as each of the different factions here. And different situations might call for you to use a specific sort of stance. I forget what the term was that we just saw in the book. So that's cool. Here are the census cards. I highly doubt you need to read that because that would be impossible. I think this is just indicating that, hey, it's the end of that decade and you need to start, doing your scoring for that decade. That'd be my guess what those represent. Okay, let's take a peek at a few of these event cards. Is graffiti vandalism or art? The new drug on the streets, it's got to be crack. Homeless running rampant in the Bronx. Fear rises after Simon resignation. New York unemployment rates hit 14%. Hoop legend Duncan Hines killed in Soundview. So you might actually, because they have the years. Well, that's the card number. Then we have the years over there. We might actually put these in order. I don't think we would, though. I think we would shuffle them up by decade because otherwise you're always going to have the same exact historical events taking place. Bridge opening charts a new path forward. Franco under fire in the Bronx. It's from the 40s. Bronx beaches go private. Property values decrease as lenders stop lending. That's all bad news. Pretty cool. Then it looks like this is probably the order that the factions can take their actions or pass or react. Cop shoots Bronx teen, sparking riots. The city that never sleeps goes dark. And of course, it's telling us, what does this event bring about? So activate 3 public, is that 1 or 3? Maybe that's a 1. Yeah, I think it is a 1. Activate 1 public organization, perform quota phase, add 1 vulnerability to 1 district. Lady Liberty now open for all. We've got information about what to do with some of these different cubes, different cylinders as well. Lady Liberty now open for all would add 1 population to each of the 5 districts. You move 2 population from 1 district to an adjacent district and add a vulnerability to 1 district. Sweet. So quite a few cards here. It looks like maybe 90 or so. That would be my guess. I was going to say, we do have these cards, and these cards were part of that. Pretty sweet. I'm very intrigued by this. And I will certainly talk to Elliot about getting this to the table for us to check out. Maybe even my nephew Cameron. Maybe we'll be able to talk him to sitting down at the table to give this a shot. All right, so that's an unboxing and first look at Cross Bronx Expressway from GMT Games, designed by Non-Breaking Space. The game is available now for 1 to 3 players, ages 14 and up. Plays in around 90 to 180 minutes. Does carry an MSRP of $86. Very nice. Like I said, I am really intrigued by this. All right, that is it for this time out. If you liked the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this first look, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and until I see you next time, certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.